on this beautiful Sunday morning in this place where we find water, the water of life in unexpected places, where we call it out of each other, where we center ourselves in the peace and the presence of Spirit. In this place where we greet each other, saying the light of Christ in us sees and celebrates the light of Christ in you. Just a couple announcements today. It is World Communion Sunday on the UCC calendar, so we have some breads from different, we have a sampling of breads this morning. There's way more bread there than we can have during communion, so stay and continue to eat the bread during social hour following the service. And this is an announcement from our auction team. The auction committee is ready to accept donations, and you will find donation forms in the pews. So please take as many as you can use. Please fill in all pertinent information and use a separate donation form for each item. All items should be delivered by Sunday, November 5th. So remember the 5th of November, as they say. Donations should be handed directly to Bonnie McDowell, Elaine Foy, Elena Parker, or Diva Harris-Williams, along with a completed donation form. Please consider offering events and experiences. We encourage you to be creative with what you offer for the auction. Donate something that you would enjoy sharing with others. We love join-ins. You may send your donation ideas to Bonnie, and Bonnie's email can be found in today's bulletin. And I am channeling Bonnie as I read you this message. So please support the auction in that way. And as we gather, as we prepare for worship, let us greet one another with the peace of Christ.
So I'll tell you this story about Moses and the people wandering in the wilderness. So from the wilderness of sin, the whole congregation of Israelites journeyed day, as the Lord had commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink, and they quarreled with Moses, and they complained, and they said, "Give us water to drink, we're thirsty." And Moses said to them, "Why are you picking on me? Why are you testing God?" But the people thirsted there for water, and they complained again to Moses, and they said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt, just to kill our children and livestock with thirst?" Picture the back of the station wagon with 4 kids, magnified by thousands. So Moses cried out to the Lord, "What shall I do with this people? They're almost ready to stone me," which is the biblical version of, "If you don't knock it off, I'm going to turn this car around." And God said, "Go on ahead, go before the people, take some of the elders with you, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I'll be standing there in front of you on the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock and water will come out of it, so then the people can drink and quit complaining." So Moses did, and in the sight of the elders, he called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and tested the Lord, and they said, "Is the Lord among us or not?" And the story continues. He struck the rock and water poured out, and everybody got a good drink. Amen.
Gracious God, bless the speaking and hearing of these words and the still moments of reflection in between. Amen. We all know what water is. We all know the things that universally give us life. We all know that dancing brings people of all religions and walks of life together. We all know that good, healthy food is what unites us and brings us all together. Art and creativity and music and joy. We know life. We know water. When we're talking about being on a journey to the promised land or following God, it's going back in the direction that we all know in our hearts is where we're destined to go. Love is the beginning and end of our journey, and we get lost in the wilderness and try to find it again and again and again. But we do it by going back to the water, back to those things that are universally shared, back to being and expressing this fullness of life. By joining each other around a table, uniting around the things that are universally shared. And nothing is more universally shared than water. We are made of water. Water has memory. Back in 2016, when the Lakota Nation invited the world to stand together in one prayer in protection of the water, they invited everyone to gather under the call, "Water is life." As a faith community, as a spiritual community, we have this opportunity to see each other as untapped sources of life. If we think that liberation, or if we think that saving the environment of our hurting, aching world is going to descend to us from the systems in place at this current time, we might get hopeless. If we look at the sources of moneyed power that continue to invest in fossil fuels, while our sacred Mother Earth burns, we could easily become hopeless. It's in moments like this, it's like the people of God wandering through the wilderness. We are on a journey to this table where the last is first, where the first is last, where we realize that love is the spirit of life that can save us and transform the world and reconstruct the world and reorient our consciousness towards one that helps us see every creature on this Mother Earth as a relative. If we saw every creature on this Mother Earth as a relative and saw ourselves in communion with every creature on this Mother Earth, how could we wake up and continue to go about our lives, allowing to happen to the earth what is happening to the earth? It would become all of our full-time job. Protecting the water, protecting the forests, living in a way that preserves this earth for generations to come, our continuation. Honoring the sacred land under our feet that was preserved we're only here because someone took care of what is underneath our feet. And so that's how as we do that, that is how we call life out of each other. You know, the people of God quarreled in the wilderness, but again and again, God is the refrain where people sort of take their small binoculars off and realize they're part of something much bigger, and so have to call water out from each other. I was reflecting as I was at the memorial service of Richard, Charlene Murdoch's husband, yesterday, seeing the incredible community that we have around us in Forest Grove. How the more I get to know elders in this community, the more I'm reminded how we are surrounded by living libraries at all times. How every person we meet is, we might think that it's hopeless if we're thinking that the answer is going to come from from on high to us, but the more we get to know each other, the more that we see each other, the more we realize that, and the more we remember that everyone around us is a living library, the more we can start calling the wisdom out of each other, the more we can call water out from each other. It might feel like we are in a desperate time as humanity on this planet Earth right now, but it's in community that we have the opportunity to realize that we have all of the love, the spiritual wisdom, the insight, the ingenuity, the creativity, the wisdom, the experience to find water and life in our midst right here where we are, living and growing and breathing and being in relationship with Mother Earth, with each other and Mother Earth. And I wanted to talk about the water protectors this morning because when I think about this, finding water in desperate times, I think of the time I did go to Standing Rock, which was probably one of the most sacred and transformative experiences I have had in my life. I want to take a moment to explain a little bit why I'm talking to you about Standing Rock. I feel like in our culture, we're going at the speed of the market so often, or whatever news story is being reported. So when Standing Rock happened and the indigenous peoples of the world and allies gathered together to protect the sacred waters on Oshedi Shikonan, the world saw them for a moment, and for a moment realized our interdependence and realized the profound importance of standing with the water protectors and the call to all humanity to rise and stand in defense of Mother Earth against the fossil fuel industry, which is destroying our home. And 7 years later, not everybody remembers Standing Rock already, but in the indigenous memory, 7 years is a blip on the screen. And so I think that the Lakota Law Project reminded us today, 7 years later after Standing Rock, that a statement was prepared. So the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers have finally released the draft environmental impact statement for public comment. And this statement was prepared, of course, by a big oil-affiliated company with a clear conflict of interests. And so we need, this is from the Lakota Law Foundation, we need to call for a fair environmental review. Dangerous the pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline, dangerously crosses under the Missouri River, threatening the health and safety of Standing Rock and of countless communities downstream. We can make our voice heard by signing the petition and making public comment by visiting lakota.law/DAPL. And this link will be made available on the church Facebook page. It's already on the Forest Grove UCC Fellowship Hour page. And so I encourage us all to petition for a fair environmental review for the Dakota Access Pipeline to be stopped once and for all. But now I want to talk about finding water in the rock. When I went to Standing Rock, I went because I of course think of Standing Rock when I hear this sacred story from our tradition that says, "Strike the rock, Moses." Standing Rock Reservation is one of the poorest reservations in the country. So much poverty and despair, yet so much resilience. I saw such profound resilience there. So much hope, so much love for the land and for each other. Being a non-Indigenous person, or not a member of a tribe, I showed up thinking this is going to be a protest against the oil company, or a protest, we're gonna surround the water, and that was all happening. But something much more profound was happening there. When I arrived at Ochedishikoin, it was explained to me that this was the place of the 7 council fires of the Lakota people, who have been gathering in council in this place since their memory of time began. And at the center of the encampment was a sacred fire. And the people holding space were the grandmothers, making time to wash anyone who came to the fire with the plants on the land, making time for stories from each other's grandparents to be told, making time for jokes. I was surprised. I thought I was showing up to some very serious event, and it was like a family gathering that the whole world was invited to attend. Laughing, dancing, drumming, singing around this sacred fire, this spirit of life in the wilderness. It was explained to me that there were 7 peoples, and I remember an elder saying there, of the 7 council fire people, there's 4 of us now. But we gather and we remember them. And all the peoples of the world from every country were gathering around these grandmothers, with the young people literally standing in the water as police gassed them and shot them with rubber bullets and sprayed water on them in the freezing cold temperatures. As children joined hands with grandparents, saying to the police of the oil company, sending their dogs to bite them, saying to them, don't you understand, this water is life. I literally heard a woman next to me saying, you would please wake up. We are doing this for you. We are protecting the water for you. I was so inspired by the courage, by this reset, by this reorientation that Standing Rock brings to us, the sacred fire at Standing Rock brings to us, because we are all that. That is how we are a world in communion. We are each other's sacred stories. We are the ways our ancestors cared for us. We are the ways we care for those who will come after us. We together are part of this interdependent web, so delicately and beautifully held together by love. The love of grandmothers. And coming back from Standing Rock, there was a group in Rhode Island. It's called Water is Life Rhode Island. And so, as you can see, the story with Standing Rock is still ongoing. The story with Standing Rock is still ongoing. The people are still fighting the pipeline. We have an opportunity to help them. But really, wherever we are is this Standing Rock at this point. When I got back to Rhode Island, I was paying a little bit more attention to the water. And the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island at the time, was in the process of selling the water to a French and Israeli company, because selling the management of the water, which would have taken the water out of the public sector and made it a privatized commodity. And so a group of us, the group Water is Life Rhode Island, thought, how do we speak back to this? What can we do to that for this? And of course, the Pokanoket tribe, who are the original people of Rhode Island, were responding to this. But a group of us decided we are going to get together and invite people in cultural community centers, in churches, in different places, to just get together and sit in circles and tell their stories to each other about the sacredness of the water. It could be a time, a simple story of like a place, a lake that you went to as a child, a place that's sacred to you. Or maybe it's a sacred story about the water from your culture. You know, for instance, my story that I shared was about the holy wells, the sacred wells all over Ireland. If you've come here before, you've heard me talk about the holy wells. And then we invited people we got all kinds of different beautiful blue fabric. Sandy, Betty, our quilters would have loved this project. We created quilt panels where people could make quilt panels of their stories about the water. And then we sewed them together. And then we decided that the world needed to see our stories. And so we found that where these meetings were happening, in the State House of Rhode Island. And we joined with the Pokanoket Nation, who were there with us. And we went into the meetings while they were talking about selling the water, which is hysterical, because as people, we literally are water, and I don't know about you, but I'm not for sale. So, and you're not for sale. We are here together. And in the middle of the meeting, the drumming would begin, and we unfurled all these beautiful banners that had the energy and power of everyone's sacred stories about how water is life, and how water isn't for sale, and how we're together, and how together we're a great community of life, and we can lift each other up in that way, and remember that always. And our beautiful prayer banners got the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island, such horrible press. And they had to table the plan to privatize the water. And so the spirit, the life, the energy of the water and the rock continues to let us drink, continues to ask us the question, how do we create spaces and places where we gather around that sacred fire and tap the rock in these desperate times, and call water out of the rock, and call water and life out of each other? I'm so grateful for this community. I'm so grateful that we are a place where we do that for each other.